Welcome to the deep dive, you curious lifelong learner. So, imagine just for a second that someone walks up to you and says, you know, they have the absolute definitive secret to achieving spiritual enlightenment and total grace.
I mean, people would be skeptical right away,
Right.
right?
Like what immediately pops into your head, you're probably picturing, I don't know, a monk isolating in some barren caves,
Mhm.
fasting, meditating in total silence.
Yeah, just sort of waiting for some vague, mystical lightning bolt of understanding to strike.
Exactly. Because we have this really deep-seated assumption that ultimate spiritual peace is, well, entirely abstract, that it's formless.
It's almost always framed as this strictly internal shift, like a sudden realization that you can't quantify, you can't measure, and you certainly, can't put on a daily checklist.
But what if I told you that true enlightenment might actually depend on you actively refusing to wear the color green?
Which sounds completely absurd at first glance.
Right. Or, like, making sure you never complain about the office thermostat. Or, incredibly, learning how to gracefully flirt.
I mean, that completely shatters the monastic stereotype, doesn't it?
Totally shatters it.
Because it grounds this ethereal pursuit of grace in the very physical, mundane realities of, like, a Tuesday morning.
And that actually brings us to the mission of today's deep dive.
Yeah.
We are exploring a truly fascinating philosophical text from January 31st, 2016. It's by an author named Su Feng. It's titled 64 Subtleties for Cultivating Celestial Grace and the Essence of the Tao.
It's quite a title.
It is. And if you're expecting a collection of, sweeping poetic musings on how to just be a generally good person, you need to prepare to be surprised.
Yeah, this is not that kind of text.
No, it's an intense, highly granular, step-by-step instruction manual for literally engineering your own serenity.
Right, and the author lays out the core thesis in the very opening line stating, great undertakings are rooted in subtle details.
Subtle details, I love that.
Yeah, the argument here is actually really profound. Celestial grace, which the text defines as this elevated, untouchable, perfectly unified state of being, it isn't just a broad mindset you decide to adopt one day.
Right, you don't just wake up and say, I'm graceful now.
Exactly. It's an architecture. It's built brick by brick through the relentless precision of highly specific daily micro actions. How you stand, how you arrange your desk, how you react to a rude comment.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if you're trying to navigate our modern, incredibly overloaded life right now, a constant barrage of emails, the doom scrolling, the endless societal pressure to take a stance on everything.
It's exhausting.
It is. And this ancient-sounding wisdom actually operates as a highly tactical survival guide for all of that. But before we get to the beautiful clothes and the flowing water, the text insists we have to pour the concrete foundation first.
And that requires undergoing an intense process of radical detachment.
Very intense.
Yeah, the opening sections of this guide do not ease you in at all. They demand an absolute stripping away of the conventional reward systems that drive human behavior.
We're talking rules 1 through 8 here.
Yeah.
Right. You're instructed to let your heart dwell nowhere, to move entirely in accord with your innate nature, and crucially, to remain completely unmoved by money, power, fame, or sensual attraction.
I sort of look at that as like zero gravity training for the soul.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Because the author is essentially demanding that you escape the gravitational pull of societal expectations. Just think about the heavy emotional baggage we drag around every single day.
Oh, worrying about our credit score, stressing over a promotion.
Exactly. Agonizing over how we're perceived by our peers. This guide basically tells you to shed all that weight so you can float freely, completely untouched by worldly concerns or emotional attachments.
And, that sounds wonderful in theory. Everyone wants to be free from financial anxiety or the desperate pursuit of status. But where this text separates itself from standard self-help is just how far it pushes that detachment.
Yeah, it goes way past standard advice.
It demands that you hold to absolutely nothing so you can be at peace with whatever arises.
Which, honestly, leads us to the part of the text that genuinely gave me pause. It moves past simply ignoring wealth and enters into territory that feels, frankly, shockingly absolute.
You're talking about rules 9 through 12.
Yes, the guide explicitly instructs you not to die for a nation, not to die for a religion, not to die for a political party, and, most intensely, not to die for a family.
It's a massive paradigm shift.
Huge. How do we even reconcile this total lack of allegiance with living a meaningful, connected life? And just a quick note for you listening, we're obviously not taking sides or endorsing the politics of this one way or the other. Our goal is simply to decode what the source material is actually claiming here.
Right, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, the text isn't actually making a political statement about the intrinsic value of nations or the importance of families.
Okay, so what is it doing?
It's making a profound psychological statement about ultimate internal sovereignty. Think about what happens when you pledge your ultimate allegiance, like your very identity, to an external construct.
Right, whether that's an ideology, a company, a political tribe.
Exactly. Your internal state gets completely tied to their external fluctuations.
So if the party fails, you literally feel like you are failing.
Precisely. You become highly manipulable. Your nervous system is just constantly being hijacked by the outrage cycle or tribal conflict.
Wow, yeah.
So the text outlines that you must be bound by neither circumstances nor emotion, constrained by neither power nor gain, limited by neither morality nor convention, and held by neither ideology nor doctrine.
That's a lot of neithers.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's all about psychological insulation. The moment you are willing to die for an ideology, you lose your celestial grace because you've surrendered your peace to something entirely outside of your control.
That reframes the concept entirely for me.
Yeah.
It isn't about being cold or harboring some, I don't know, dark nihilism.
No, not at all.
It's about self-preservation in a world that constantly demands your outrage. It's almost like installing an invisible force field around your psyche. Because if nothing owns you, not convention, not doctrine, not even your own desire for a legacy.
Because the guide explicitly tells you not to seek glory or a name in history.
Right, exactly. If none of that owns you, then nobody can pull your strings.
And we actually see the direct psychological payoff of this force field a few lines later. The text states that in the face of all events, you must remain calm and unhurried.
Unhurried. That is so rare these days.
It is, but you can only maintain that genuine, unhurried calm if you don't actually fear losing anything. This radical detachment is the exact mechanism that protects you from information overload.
Okay, so you've achieved this internal zero gravity.
Yeah.
You're completely detached. You don't care about hoarding wealth. You aren't fighting in ideological wars. And the text even says you shouldn't be troubled by food, shelter, birth, aging, illness, or death.
Quite the list.
Right. So logically, you'd expect the very next instruction to be, go find a muddy cave, put on a burlap sack, and scare at a wall.
Well, yeah, that is the traditional trajectory of asceticism. Deny the world completely.
But the text pivots so hard in the opposite direction. And the sheer paradox here is what makes this philosophy so captivating.
Yeah, the aesthetic rules are fascinating.
Instead of a muddy cave, it demands a highly curated, almost obsessive level of physical and spatial elegance. You are expected to exist in a flawlessly designed aesthetic environment. It dictates that you must dress in clean, simple, graceful, and flowing clothing.
And then it gets hyper-specific, doesn't it?
It does. It says you must actively avoid wearing bright red or green.
Which is such a specific fashion rule for a spiritual text.
Totally. And it even extends to your personal scent and the texture of your space. You're instructed to keep your body clean and subtly fragrant. You must actively avoid disheveled hair, grime, heavy makeup. And your living space must be perfectly serene, completely free of dusty tables or cluttered messes.
I can see how that would throw people off.
Oh, I have to admit, my initial reaction to this was pure confusion. I was like, if I have achieved total mental detachment and I'm not supposed to care about shelter or worldly concerns, why on earth am I stressing over whether my table is dusty or if my shirt is bright green?
Right, it feels like a contradiction.
Yeah.
But to understand that, we have to look at how human cognition actually interacts with the physical environment.
Okay, go on.
The author isn't advocating for materialism or luxury here. This is about intentional simplicity. The text clarifies this by urging the use of simple and elegant things. The external physical grace operates as a cognitive offloading mechanism.
Cognitive offloading. Let's dig into that. Explain how that works in this context.
So think about the psychological impact of color theory and clutter. Bright reds and greens are high arousal colors. They demand immediate attention from your visual cortex.
Right, they signal urgency or danger in nature.
Exactly. And similarly, a cluttered, dusty table constantly pings your brain with unfinished tasks. If your goal is a mind that dwells nowhere and remains perfectly unhurried, you cannot surround yourself with an environment that is basically screaming at your nervous system.
Okay, so the physical space is actually an engineering tool to regulate your internal state.
Exactly. The text goes into incredible detail about this environment. It says you must keep books and musical instruments at hand. You should hang specific grounding calligraphy like the classic Ode to the Humble Room.
That's so specific.
It is. You're also told to use simple sheer curtains that allow the breeze to pass through and to let the sunlight and moonlight shine in. It even mandates cultivating a courtyard with plum, orchid, bamboo, and flowing water. And it explicitly notes that a lotus pond is ideal.
A lotus pond.
Yeah.
The sheer curtains are such a brilliant metaphor for the whole philosophy.
How so?
Well, think about it. A solid wall blocks the world completely,
Oh.
but having no curtains leaves you totally exposed. A sheer curtain, though, it allows the breeze and the light to pass through you without blowing over your furniture.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, you experience the world, but you aren't damaged by it.
That is a perfect synthesis of the aesthetic intent. You aren't attached to the lotus pond in a way that would cause you existential suffering if it, dried up. But you curate it because elegance, order, and flowing water naturally breed mental clarity. The physical space becomes a mirror, reinforcing the internal stillness you worked so hard to achieve in that first detachment phase.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because you can't just sit by your beautifully curated lotus pond forever, smelling subtly fragrant in your flowing non-green clothes.
Sadly, no.
Eventually, you have to walk out your front door and interact with a very noisy, chaotic society. And the text provides a masterclass on social interaction that combines egalitarian respect with what I can only describe as an incredibly intimidating level of restraint.
Yeah, the social persona this text constructs is deeply fascinating. It establishes a perfectly level playing field for human interaction. On one hand, you are explicitly instructed to respect beggars and vagabonds, to respect everyone, unconditionally.
Right, everyone gets a baseline.
But on the other hand, you are firmly warned to never flatter or bow before the powerful, and to never fear those who rely on brute strength.
So you never punch down, but you absolutely never kiss up. You treat the CEO and the person on the street with the exact same baseline of serene, unbothered respect.
And the mechanism for communicating that respect relies heavily on holding back. The guide advises speaking very little. Instead of filling dead air with chatter, just to be polite, you're told to convey your meaning through your posture, your expressions, and your eyes.
That is such a dominant, grounding presence. Just imagine someone coming at you with frantic, anxious energy, basically demanding a reaction.
Which happens all the time.
All the time. And instead of matching their panic, you simply observe them. You convey your understanding, your boundaries, and your calm entirely through your physical bearing and eye contact. It forces the other person to decelerate to your speed.
And when you do open your mouth to speak, the parameters are incredibly tight. Your speech must be refined, gentle, possessing rhythm and poise. It must be neither rushed nor dragging.
That sounds hard enough as it is.
And perhaps the most difficult directive for the modern era. You must speak clearly and concisely with absolutely zero wasted words.
Zero wasted words. Let's actually apply this to a real-world scenario. So you, listening, can picture the sheer power of this approach. Think about your modern workplace. The office water cooler, the Slack channels, the pre-meeting small talk.
It's usually just a mess of complaints.
Exactly. And the text provides a list of conversational bans. No gossiping, no prying into privacy, no talking about money, fame, power, or today's wealthy celebrities. Furthermore, it forbids grumbling, complaining, blaming, envying, or comparing.
It's a huge list.
It goes further.
Yeah.
You are not even allowed to speak of illness, love, hunger, cold, or heat.
Banning complaints about the weather is remarkably profound, honestly, because when we complain about being cold or tired, we're usually just seeking cheap social friction.
Right.
We're basically just bonding over mutual minor suffering.
Yeah, someone walks into the office and says, ugh, the AC is freezing in here. And someone else goes, I know, I'm freezing too. Management never fixes it. It's an anxiety loop. But if you adopt this philosophy, you become a social Faraday cage.
A social Faraday cage. I like that. Unpack that analogy for me.
Okay, so a Faraday cage blocks electromagnetic fields, right? If you are this person operating with celestial grace, you block the chaotic social frequencies. You walk into that same freezing office. You don't complain about the cold. You don't gossip about the boss. You don't brag about a celebrity you read about.
You're just completely neutral.
You just sit there, perfectly poised, conveying warmth with your eyes, speaking only when necessary with zero wasted words. The negative energy of the room hits you and is instantly grounded. It just cannot pass through you.
And the psychological effect that has on a group of people is immense. By refusing to engage in the petty friction of daily complaints, you become an unshakable anchor in any environment.
People definitely notice that energy.
They naturally gravitate toward that stillness. You aren't just protecting your own peace, you're actively lowering the heart rate of the room.
But, and this is crucial, the guide doesn't want you to just be a quiet, passive statue observing the world. This is the twist that makes this text so vibrant. It demands that you actively engage in the joy of being alive.
Right, you're not a robot.
Exactly. It expects you to be a Renaissance being, mastering specific skills and executing actions with shocking intensity.
This is where the philosophy elevates beyond mere stoicism into a full celebration of human capacity. Because the text issues a mandate that you must master one musical instrument, one form of chess, one kind of dance or wonderfully swordsmanship, and one form of calligraphy or painting.
I mean, who puts swordsmanship on a checklist for spiritual grace?
Yeah.
It's awesome. You can't just be peaceful. You have to be highly capable. And not just in solitary arts either. You must know how to drink, sing, engage in pleasant talk, admire flowers, walk in nature, and surprisingly, how to gracefully flirt.
I love that one. The inclusion of graceful flirting tells us so much about the author's intent here.
Because it's so social.
Yeah, flirting requires deep interpersonal presence. You have to read subtle social cues, engage playfully, and connect with another human being without aggressively demanding an outcome.
Oh, that makes sense.
It is the ultimate test of joyful detachment. You're engaged with the beauty of human connection, proving you haven't turned into an unfeeling wall.
And the text gives you permission to feel. It explicitly states you must know how to smile, be annoyed, cry, or feel anger. You are allowed to experience the full spectrum of the human condition.
There's a boundary, though.
Right, the boundary is how you express it. You can cry, but you must never wail. You can be angry, but you must never shout. You experience the emotion, but you maintain sovereignty over your reaction to it.
What's fascinating here is the deliberate contrast between the utter stillness of the mind we built in the beginning and the explosive, decisive nature of physical action when it's actually required.
Right.
Mastering swordsmanship or dance builds neural pathways of deep focus.
Yeah.
When you're swinging a sword or executing a complex dance step, you can't be worrying about your social status. The physical mastery forces you into the absolute present moment.
And when you act from that present moment, you do not hesitate. The guide uses incredible imagery for this. It tells you to act with the force and swiftness of thunder and lightning.
Thunder and lightning.
Yeah, you must be resolute, never sluggish or indecisive.
This synthesis of stillness and power is beautifully captured in one specific directive. Begin with lightness like clouds and mist. End with clarity and precision.
Wow.
Yeah, you initiate an action effortlessly, fluidly, without any internal friction. But the execution is sharp and unmistakable.
It makes me think of a master martial artist. Like, you move like a cloud, adapting to whatever comes at you. But when it's time to strike, you hit like lightning. You walk, stand, sit, and lie down with the bearing of a celestial being, but you're instructed to command with bold vision and profound strategy.
You aren't drifting aimlessly at all.
Not at all.
Right.
You're navigating life with absolute intention, yet remaining perfectly unattached to the final outcome. You leave a room when you say you will. You stop when you decide to. You're entirely self-directed.
So we've traced the entire architecture of this philosophy now. We severed the biological panic of tribalism and ego. We engineer a beautiful, simple physical space that regulates our nervous system. We treat everyone with egalitarian respect while operating as a grounding wire against petty complaints. And we master joyful skills while moving with the precision of lightning.
So what does this all mean? Where does mastering these 64 highly specific subtleties ultimately lead us?
It leads us to the final and perhaps most enigmatic instruction of the entire text. The concluding directive simply states, remain in the state of Hunden.
Hunden. Okay, that requires some serious unpacking for us to fully grasp the finish line here.
Absolutely. So Hunden is a foundational concept in traditional Taoist philosophy. It represents the primordial state of the universe before things were separated into rigid binary categories.
Before dualism.
Right. Before there was light and dark, good and bad, success and failure, there was Hunden, the state of unified, undifferentiated wholeness. It is the ultimate rejection of dualistic thinking.
So by achieving this state, you're no longer chopping the world up into, things you want and things you hate.
Yeah.
You're no longer fighting reality.
Precisely. You are entirely fluid. You are in perfect unity with nature. Because you no longer categorize every event as a victory or a disaster, you remain completely unbothered by worldly chaos.
You just observe it.
Yeah, you move through society with that cloud-like lightness, perfectly whole within yourself. You require absolutely zero external validation to justify your existence. The text actually paints a remarkably peaceful image of this final state, suggesting your ideal companions are simply one animal you love and rare exotic plants.
Just you, your pet, your orchids, and absolute unbreakable mental sovereignty.
It's quite a vision.
It's a breathtaking vision of what human life can be. And it brings us full circle right back to where we started. True celestial grace isn't a mystical accident. It isn't a lottery ticket you win by sitting on a mountain for a decade.
No, not at all.
It's an engineering project. It's built on the micro details of how you choose your words, how you wipe the dust off your table, how you refuse to complain about the heat, and how you gracefully engage with the people around you without ever absorbing their chaos.
And that actually leaves us with an incredibly provocative question to consider as we close, one that kind of flips our normal approach to self-improvement entirely upside down.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Well, we almost always assume an inside-out approach, right? We think we must first fix our minds, cure our anxiety, find inner peace before we can have an orderly home, a calm demeanor, or healthy relationships.
Right, we wait for the internal shift before we change the external behavior.
But what if this text is revealing the exact opposite mechanism? What if the deliberate act of curating your physical environment, like choosing the right sheer curtains, refusing to wear jarring colors, mastering a physical skill like chess or dance, is actually the catalyst for mental detachment rather than the result of it?
Wait, that's wild.
Does controlling and refining our external physical details literally trick the internal mind into finally letting go of its anxieties?
Is the external action the actual origin of the internal peace? Wow, that is a profound thought to sit with today. As you step back out into your own overloaded, noisy world, try paying close attention to your subtle details. Notice how you sit, what you say, and what you allow into your physical and mental space. The blueprint for grace might not be hidden in a mystical cloud. It might be sitting right in front of you, waiting to be built in the mundane details of your daily routine. Until our next deep dive, keep exploring and keep questioning.